Hello everyone and welcome back to Painting with Martin. Today we're going to take a look at another figure from Catapult Feud, which is a board game from Vesuvius Media, who were kind enough to give me the board game, so thank you very much to them. And this one is from the Siege Expansion, and it features a Highland girl, and the other figure which we're not going to be painting today, which is also unprimed, is looking like this. So you have this one and this one. These are the figures from the expansion. We're going to paint the left one today, which is the Highland girl, and the other one is coming up in another video. So I'm putting this one aside for a moment just for you to show you. And the Siege expansion actually features a ballista, of course more bricks and tiles, and well, bricks actually. And the ballista is probably one of the best weapons in the game if you can get it to work, because it's a little bit tricky there, but otherwise it's a phenomenal expansion. I really enjoyed playing with it, and so did my son. Another thing here is that I don't have a card art picture for this one, but what I'm going to show you right now is we're going to paint this kind of like the cape here with some green, and then of course the hair is going to be flaming red, flaming orange, and then of course the spear is a normal color, but the rest is going to be a gray kind of like skirt and or dress with some details, of course. So let's get started. Base paints first, followed by a wash, and then some highlights and finishing touches. And for this video I'm also going to be using plenty of contrast paint from Citadel, meaning it's going to be a little bit easier and faster to paint than a normal video. So we're going to start with this with a cape here, and it covers all the way around this one, so make sure you don't miss any details. And if we make mistakes, we'll simply cover them up as we go along. Also wanted to say that I primed this one using a surface primer from Vallejo. This color is grey, but you can use any white or light primer. I recommend that one especially for this video. So with that said, let's get started, shall we? Now, this is the contrast Dark Angels green that we're using, and now we are going to give it a good shake. And we're going to apply it neat as always, because it is a contrast paint, and I'm using a size 3 brush for this one. So putting it up like this, and we're putting it up as we go. And as you can see here, it can be a little bit tricky getting all the details here, trying not to of course cover the hair here. And of course it can be a little bit tricky, so you're going to have to angle the miniature and try not to get the hand here as well. I'm just going to give you a basic overview here how to paint it. Of course paint the inside here as well if you can. I'm angling it here. I'll show you in a minute what it's going to be looking like. And there you go. Moving on to the other side, putting a little bit of more paint on my brush. And then turning it around and some going around. And the good thing with the contrast, it acts as a wash as well, so we don't have to cover this one in the wash stage, which saves us some time and some focus as well. A little bit more paint, and you really want this one to pool in the recesses and not on the flat surfaces if you can help it. Moving along here, like you can see here, it can be a little bit tricky to get the hang of it. I'll angle it here for you so you will see that sometimes you just have to push the brush inside and work it along. There's a hand here that I really want to try and avoid, because the contrast paint can be quite dominating. Sometimes you have to angle the brush like this to get the hang of it. I'm trying to show you these angles because the flat surface is fairly easy to paint. And then the inside here as well. Don't forget this part. It's very easy to miss. See here, I made a mistake here on this part here, but we can cover that up with some white or some other primer that we used before. Now, looking like this is not perfect. Don't forget also behind the spear here and this little fold here as well. It's very easy to miss. I missed that a few times when I painted the miniatures. And I've tried also to pre-paint these miniatures to make sure that it's a little bit easy to follow. So with this one set here, going around quite okay. I'm going to put this one aside here. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's finished. Let's actually put this one over here so you can see it. Washing the brush in the meantime, and of course wiping it off with a piece of kitchen towel. Always nice to keep it handy. And this is what it looks like when it's dry and finished. I pre-painted it for you. So when this one is done, we're now turning our attention to the hair. And the hair for this one, I've chosen to use a very almost bland color called Jokarero Orange from Citadel. I'm going to close my paint pot here, make sure it doesn't spill over. It has happened before and it's very annoying. So this one I'm going to apply neat all over the hair. So as always, give it a good shake to make sure the pigments don't stay in the bottom. And I'm applying neat from, you can dilute it if you like to, but I didn't find it necessary as well because we're going to anyways give it a wash later on. So this one, the hair is really beautiful. It's very flamey, very wavy. So it's really nice, puts a nice color to it. And this one, the same thing with the other paint, with this paint as well. You want to try and not hit the what we just painted with the contrast. Making sure that this one is, the hair, since it has so many, it's like so flowing in form, it certainly has the danger to miss a few spots. So that's why I always angle the miniature like I do here. And you see here, underneath here, there's also another spot here. Very easy to miss. Very annoying if you do miss that. So cover this one as well. Put some more paint on your brush. And here, try to paint it with one stroke. Avoid the face if you can. Putting it up like this, you can see. But also paint the inner workings of the locks of the hair here. And a little bit more on the side, turning it around, making sure we don't miss this obvious part. Angling the miniature should make sure that this part is also covered. See here, you angle it over here, you can see that there are some locks here that are really easy to miss. As well as if you angle it here again, you see this part here that is also sometimes you miss, or at least I can. And again, thank you very much to those of you who subscribed to the channel already. It really helps me grow and shows me some appreciation for what I'm doing. I really can't thank you enough. And for those of you who are watching this video for the first time, maybe getting into painting for the very first time since you held your first brush when you were in kindergarten or something like that, like it was for me a long time ago, please consider liking and especially subscribing to this video and to the channel, so that means it helps me grow as well. Thank you so much to everyone as well. It's the community that really makes this channel and this hobby so really good and fun. So this is what it looks like with the hair all painted. Oh, I missed a spot there. So with this one done, I'm going to put this one down, let it dry. You can see here the stages here that we're doing here already, so you can already follow along, starting with the cape and the hair already done. Washing the brush as we go along to make sure that it's nice and clean for the next stage. We're still in the base part stage, and we are next one. This is what it looks like when it's all finished with the hair and the cape here, as you can see, have all dried. So closing the paint pot here as normal. Great. And good job to everyone if you've come to the stage so far. Excellent job. Now what we're going to do next here is we are going to paint we're going to do two things. We're going to paint the face and arms over here and here. Feet we're leaving to the last. And then we're going to paint the kind of like the dress or the skirt here as well in the stage. So for the face, I'm using another contrast paint, and this one is called Dark Oath Flesh, I believe it's called. I'm a bit disorganized here, so bear with me. In the meantime, we could actually start by painting one of the spears as well, while I'm looking for it. And it's called Brown Wyldwood, not this one, my apologies. Contrast Wyldwood for the spear, and again with the contrast, give it a good shake, and you apply it neat. Very good for the spear. Just apply it as it is. Try to avoid covering the hands as well as the cape. Turn this around. And turn it around over here, so make sure you also get the back side, top back side here. Turn it around. You also see the front part here. You can, if you don't have a contrast color, don't worry. You can always fix this with some regular brown, flat earth from Vallejo is a good choice. Or Mournfang brown or rhinox hide from Citadel would work as well. If you don't have these colors at hand when you're starting painting, I would recommend going over to your local Games Workshop store or your Vallejo store, local friendly board game shop, and do it. And also with this one, I also want to paint some parts of the scabbard for the sword, as well as the sword handle here as well. Looking like this. Right, good job everyone. And missed a part here. Now putting this one side so I can wash my brush. Oops. Closing the paint pot so we don't miss out on anything. And while I'm still looking for my other contrast color for my for the face, we might turn our attention to the dress. And for this one I'm using neutral grey for the top part, which I've already put out here, and I mixed it out with a little bit of water, so about 50% water, and I'm using this one for the top part here, because on the card art it's actually a little bit it is a little bit lighter on that color, and you could use the same paint over the all gray areas of the figure, but I intend to show you a different technique where you can mix two of them, not mix them, but having two different kinds of gray on them. And we're taking great care. I'm using the same size 3 brush here. I'm taking great care not to hit the belt, and also not hitting the green part of anything here. If you do hit the belt, no problem. We'll fix that later. and this is, and also hitting all the lower part here. Before we turn to the back side, I want to show you another part here that is easy to miss, and that is inside the back side here. Inside here, which I painted green by mistake, is also the grey part here as well. So turning it around, painting the grey part here. Here you go, looking quite like this. Putting it down, I'm going to show you what other paint to use. Washing my brush in the meantime is always important. And then for the lower dress, I'm using Mechanicus Standard Grey, mixed, diluted about 50% with water, which I have in my palette over here. Putting it out over here, as you can see. And this is for, it's a very subtle effect, but to give this one a darker tone, it really accentuates the figure in the way that you can actually see that it's two different greys, and it really helps the figure stand out as well, because otherwise the focus is going to be entirely just on the hair and the green cape, and where you want actually some intention to go on the skirt as well, which you're painting, this is a good way to do so. And making sure you don't hit the spear where you've painted the brown. While you're already at it, you can already paint the top of the spear here. You can paint that black or a darker color as well, but this is also for you to have something to base the very light steel on in the meantime. Turning the figure around, and for the speed paint, I'm using not the contrast color, I'm using the speed paint, and it's called Crusader Skin. I'm going to put it out here on my palette, and switching off to a smaller brush. And applying it on the face, and applying it neat. This is from Army Painter, and acts in the same way. Don't forget the skin over here, the arm. As well as the inner face over here, and the hand as well inside here. Very subtle effect. We're going to cover that with some the detail stage afterwards. So when this one is done, putting it out over here to dry. And this is what it looks like when it's done with the stage. Now it's time for the brown belt, which I'm using. Let's put this cork back on the Crusader skin. Brown skin, I'm using a color called Mournfang Brown. And Mournfang Brown is what I have over here from Citadel. And I'm using this one on the belt. I'm using this one neat. You can dilute it as well if you like, if you want to. and just to touch it a little bit like this, as well as a little bit behind here as well, going around the figure. Alright, now we're done with the base paints, and now it's time for our wash. My apologies, got a little bit of in hand here from my camera. Moving the camera back here because I moved it. Apologies. And then for the wash, we're going to use, first of all, we're going to use some black wash for the skirt and dress. I'm using it neat. And applying it quite vigorously over the area here. As well as the top part of the skirt as well. Will really help it define it in a nice way. All these nice folds are really coming out. I also put the spear here as well. Some more angling the miniature as you see fit. And then of course painting the back side here too. And making sure, oh yeah, in the side of the skirt here too. Not extremely hard to get, but quite rewarding. Angling the miniature again to get the underside. There you go. And before, you might think you're done here, but I'm going to show you a nice trick that you can use to actually create kind of like a rainy weather effect. You take an old cloth like this and you wipe most of the brush over from the surface effect like this, kind of like a streaking rain effect. Helps the drying process quite a bit. You leave it in the folds. Something like this, because in Scotland it rains a lot. I've been there, and this one I wanted to create the wrist effect on her skirt as well. Something like this. Holding it up here for you to see the angling, looking like this. Now we got one bit of wash left to do, and that is of course the hair. And the hair, I've chosen to use Cassandora yellow for the hair, which is a shade from Citadel. And we're going to use this one neat as well, all over the hair. I'm popping up the cork over here. And lifting the miniature up. And applying it vigorously and liberally all over the hair area, making sure you really want to soak the hair in this color, but you really want to avoid getting it on the face. So here make sure you have more brush control. You also want to avoid getting it on the other parts of the figure. So here, more vigorously, more liberally, I guess that's a word. And something like this will be quite nice. When it dries, it will have a nice subtle effect. So, like this, I'm going to put this one down. Perhaps not all the way down. There we go. I'm going to close this paint pot. Nice and done. Clean the brush, of course. And wipe the brush off some kitchen towel. Kitchen paper, whatever you call it. Now, I'm going to show you what it looks like when it is ready for the highlights and finishing touches. Now, it looks fairly nice, like this. Now, we're going to start by painting the, I forgot to tell you this, I put some oily steel in this one, but we're going to put some steel again on this part here. Making sure, if you didn't do that already because I forgot to tell you, sorry about that. Some oily steel here, and also some nice oily steel on this belt here. For the sword scabbard and sword, you can use a variation of silver and gold here. I'm going to use gold afterwards, but there's a little bit of steel, I think, up here that I want to use. Give it a little bit more of a steel tip here, in case the spear would break or something like that. So that's that part. Now, before I go into the sword scabbard, I want to turn my attention to the dress. And you can leave the dress as it is. It's perfectly fine. It's looks, if you want it kind of like rain dirty and worn, you can do so. That's perfectly fine. Or you can take an old brush or a series of Vallejo's Paintmaster Series 4, which is really good for dry brushing, and you can use your original paint, in this case neutral grey from Vallejo for the top part. Put a lot of the paint on your brush and you're going to dry brush. In this case, wipe off most of the brush and most of the paint off the brush, something like this, till you're left with only a little bit of paint. And then you dry brush only hitting the raised areas as well as the top raised areas if you can. Something like this, and the areas here, also the raised areas, giving it a nice, slightly detailed look, leaving the wash in the folded areas. Now you'll do the same thing with Mechanicus Standard Grey. You apply it neat on your paintbrush, and you can actually keep some of the paint back off from the neutral grey on top of it. It doesn't really matter if it mixes. And again, you apply the same thing again on a piece of kitchen towel, wiping most of it off, and then going back to the paint, back to the figure, and hitting only the raised areas with it. If it was a little bit too much, wipe it off your fingers or your piece of kitchen towel again. Only hitting the raised areas here as well. Angling the miniature as you see fit. And you can see the light, the very slight tonal variation of the light and the grey. If you want to do slightly more highlight, you can add a little bit of white to your grey, which we're going to do here. You can continue to increase the quantities of white into the grey to produce an even increased highlight, if you like, until you're left with only a little bit of grey. For that dry brush. And this is another dry brush. Here again, I'm only seeing if I can touch the raised areas here. Only slight. As well as our upper chest. And really it helps pluck out the details of the model with this highlight. And this is what it looks like when you're done. And you can do it on the back here as well, just very small. And it will help the top part of the dress from the bottom stand out a lot. Now, this one means you will wash this one very carefully and dry off the paintbrush before we turn our attention to the green part of the miniature. Let's see here if I can do this one. I can choose to do Luftwaffe Camo Bright Green for the cape. That's an option. You can also do Warpstone Glow, which I have here. This one, I'll share a little bit ahead. Apologies for this. You can also use Lauren Forest, and this is Warpstone Glow. And I'm going to use Warpstone Glow for this one. I'm going to try it out and see how it works. See this how it looks like, but then I see it's too bright in this case. So if I go over to Lauren Forest and see what it looks like instead, you see that it's a little bit more of a forest color. So I'm going to see how it pans out. Again, I'm going to try a dry brush on this one, wiping most of the paintbrush off. Lifting her up. And not the same color. Probably should have gone with Warpstone Glow, but it's okay if you change the colors. This one gives a little more of an earthy forest look. And here is a heavy dry brush I'm using to pretty much paint over this one. Give it a worn look. So if you don't like the color from the Warpstone Glow, from the Dark Angel's Green, you can definitely change it along if you like. And it's perfectly fine just to leave it as it is as well. So this is what it looks like. If I were to change and go for a Warpstone Glow instead, I'm going to use it on my other figures today, so I can show you the difference. So if I take this figure here, for example, it's still completely dry. Putting this one aside, this is what it looks like with the Warpstone Glow, which is more in line with the original contrast color. Looking like this. Alright, putting this one aside and continuing with the project, I'd just like to show you the difference. Making sure you clean your brush thoroughly. Now it's time for the face. The face, I've chosen to use some Cadian flesh tone. I'm going to try to point out some individual parts using it neat. With a smaller brush. A nice face usually erases I like the beauty of the figure quite a bit. So here I'm going to pick out the cheek and the forehead and the nose, leaving the contrast colors in between as with the eyes. You can paint the eyes if you like, but I'm really terrible at it, so I'm going to leave it as they are. Leaving them as they are. But the hands were a little bit too bland for me, and the arms. So I'm really going to turn my attention to them. As well as here on the other side. Putting it down, putting some more paint on my brush. And you can go over again. Yeah, there's a little bit of green here by mistake. Alright, looking quite okay with the face. Now for the hair. Oops. For the hair, I'm going to use two techniques. First, I'm going to take some Vallejo's Flourescent Orange. And Flourescent Orange is a technical color. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. And I'm going to put it out here on my palette as it is. It's very, very thick. And then I'm going to use some Trollslayer Orange from Citadel, and I'm going to mix the two. And the point of this is that the Trollslayer Orange and the Flourescent Orange, they're not the same color. But it gives, by blending the two together, putting it out over here, and you should blend them together because the fluorescent is not going to work on its own. The color will be more vibrant. And then I'm going to paint this over. Let's start with this one is done. Let's start by doing on the hair here. I'm covering the. You can dry brush this if you like, if you don't have the time. But I want this over the whole figure. But I'm going to try to keep some of the original color in between and some of the folds. The original first I'm painting it over it, the whole thing, the whole figure. Like kind of like a heavy dry brush, but with more attention to detail. And the Flourescent Orange blends into the Trollslayer Orange and creates a more of a vibrant effect. I'll show you the difference between the regular base paint with the wash on it in a bit. Angling this one, seeing if I don't hit the camera. And it's okay if you don't hit everything with it. You can keep some of the Jokarero orange on some parts of the hair if you like. I'm not being particularly detailed with this one, as I was with the orange, with the original orange. So I'll put this paintbrush down and I'll show you the difference. This is the one with the wash and the Jokarero orange, and this one here is with the fluorescent color and Trollslayer Orange. You see here, I think I prefer this one, but if you prefer the other one, that's perfectly fine as well. Now for another detail here, which is the golden color here, let me just wash the brush. I need a smaller brush for this one, and gold color I've chosen Retributor armor from Citadel for the gold part of the sword and the scabbard, which is otherwise missing here. As well as the brooch up here. As well as her neck, her jewelry here on the hands, as well as in the other hand underneath here. Very subtle effect. Now, you probably wondered about the feet and the base. Now, I'm going to paint the feet with some Cadian flesh tone, straight meat. But if you want to, you can completely forget about this one and use a basing of your choice, as it might be difficult to actually hold it. You can also paint these ones like brown to simulate some kind of shoes as well. That's also perfectly fine. Taking extra care here not to hit the skirt. Right, putting it down. For the basing material, you can paint it, the base, just brown or black, perfectly fine either way. Or you can use the basing material that I'm going to show you, which is something called Agrillan Badland. I hope I pronounced that right. Now, it's quite. I use a dry brush for this one, so I'm using this one that I use for the dry brush. This is a very textured paint that can sometimes damage your brush. I'm using this across the base. And trying to get it underneath here as well. If you want to get a dirtier look on the skirt, you can definitely add some textured dirt on top, on the lower skirts here, which I'm doing. You simulate that she's been out in battle and walking and didn't come from like a fashion show or her. Doing it like this can have a nice subtle effect. And there you have it. Now this is from the Siege expansion from Catapult Feud, one of the factions. I can't remember which one it is. And next time or in the future I'm going to paint the other faction which I showed you in the beginning of the video. So everyone, thank you very much for watching this video. Please consider subscribing to this channel. It really helps me grow. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.